Climate change is the biggest issue of our time. If we keep polluting the way we have been, we face unacceptable local impacts, like not enough snowpack, not enough water, rampant wildfires, growing public health risks, and escalating costs. With smart state and federal policy, we can avoid these impacts while also protecting Colorado's quality of life.
Colorado Communities for Climate Change is a coalition of local governments advocating for effective state and federal climate policy. CC4CA was founded with 3 members in 2016, and we've since grown to 25 local governments spanning the Western Slope and Front Range, from small rural towns to major suburbs. Local elected officials and local governments are powerful voices for policy change. CC4CA brings those voices to the state capitol and other forums to advocate for climate action for all Coloradans.
Climate change is already having substantial impacts to Colorado communities, and we are insisting on strong state and federal policy. By advocating for state and federal action on climate, we not only support clean air, clean water, but we also are supporting our economy, creating jobs, and saving money.
Basically, the Housing and Human Services Department has been going through a process the last number of years to put in place an integrated service delivery model of care. We want to put in place a process where any door is truly the right door, and that just doesn't mean any door at HHS in our department or any door at Boulder County. That means any door at our community. No matter where a person asks for assistance, we want to make sure that their experience is consistent, that it's informed, and that we can provide the most targeted and effective services that will address their most critical needs.
We have an amazing community of service providers, resource providers, incredible agencies that are out there that we've established great partnerships with, but they were using case management systems that were completely siloed from each other. So to that any door is the right door philosophy and goal, they might walk into the door of agency number 1, do an assessment, answer a bunch of questions, get some services, get some help, visit another agency, and that second agency had no visibility into the client's history. So they would ask them the same questions, difficult questions. And so breaking down those silos with technology, with those relationships and amazing agencies already intact in the community, really changes the game in terms of the client experience.
If you go to one of our family resource centers like Sister Carmen or Our Center or EFA, you are your needs are being assessed in the same way, using the same tool, and using the results of that, every staff member is trained on how to use that tool and refer to the same consistent set of services across the community using the same data. So if I am in an organization and we can't quite help you and I send you off somewhere else, they already know that we've had that conversation and who's in your family and what kind of services you've received up to this date and what your needs are, because I took that needs assessment, used that tool, and entered the data into the system, and you can see the results of that. We spend a lot of time, again, working with our practice folks to train staff at all of our partners and our staff as well at HHS on the value and the need to share data so that you can really coordinate and provide clients the best care possible. And the success that we had is, what was really interesting is as soon as we rolled it out, those questions went away completely. We had, out of a few thousand clients, we only had 2 that declined to sign that release of information. So we felt like everybody was really on board with this process and that was a huge success.
We have over 250 case managers and volunteers throughout the community at these various organizations who are using the system, and based on everything that we've just talked about and that coordination, it really allows 250 people to be kind of operating as one, as opposed to the silos that we described earlier. So it's a pretty impressive number, and it continues to grow as we enhance the system and bring more organizations on board.
Yeah.
So Homeless Solutions for Boulder County is our collaborative effort between Boulder County, the City of Boulder, the City of Longmont, and all of our other stakeholders, so homeless service providers, public housing authorities, medical, behavioral health providers, and our justice partners, to really all collaborate and be approaching homelessness among single adults in the county in a systematic, collaborative way. We just completed the first year of our system from October 2017 through September 2018, and we screened just around 2,500 clients for services with our programs. We've been able to help 383 of those clients that we know of get to successful outcomes. That includes 188 folks that we've helped get into their own housing, 145 that we've helped reunify with support networks, and 50 that we've helped get into other residential programs. The Boulder County community in 2016 and 2017 really realized how we could be doing better. And so we've really reorganized in this approach to take advantage of our lessons learned, which was really around we need to focus on housing. We've been providing great emergency and basic needs supports in the community for a long time, but housing is really that solution to homelessness. And so how do we really make sure all of our services are oriented in that way? We've also had a long history of providers in the community providing wonderful services, but that has been done in a more individual-based approach. And so with this new system, we're really trying to give everybody a path and a service to offer that really reflects the best of their abilities and really where they should be, where they can fit best in the system, so that we don't duplicate services. We can give clients a referral in a more streamlined way, make sure we're working with them as efficiently as possible on getting to those housing solutions.
In 2018, the State Historic Preservation Office sent us a request for input on their nomination to the National Register for the courthouse, and we were able to take that to the Historic Preservation Advisory Board and the County Commissioners and gather their support for the application and send that back to the state. And then that resulted in the added designation of the courthouse to recognize the added area of importance.
The National Park Service, which kind of oversees historic preservation activities by the states, had put out a theme study on LGBTQ historic places. And Colorado was not very well represented in that theme study. And so our office then started to do research on what might be some places that we could easily point to having important roles in local LGBTQ history. So the Downtown Boulder Historic District was listed in the National Register in the 1980s, really in recognition for its commercial history and its architectural value. And the courthouse, beautiful in its own right, was part of that district. This additional layer of history, which is usually how history tends to work, is in multiple layers, we thought it was important to recognize it individually for its history associated with LGBTQ history.
So I was very excited to be involved in this plaque. I worked with another colleague in my office, and what we played upon was the kind of style of the historic county courthouse, and we also incorporated the rainbow flag, which is symbolic of the LGBTQ community, and we're very pleased with how it turned out. On a personal note, a lot of my projects that I work on get changed over time, and I was kind of excited that this is something that's going to be pelted to the wall and it'll never change. So that was pretty exciting for me.
So really what we enjoyed about this whole project was the celebration that came with it and all the people that came and attended. We had the governor come, we had county commissioners, we had out Boulder County, 200 members of the community, and it was just a terrific way to say Boulder County is an inclusive community and that we care about our future and how we represent that in our present.
This project, which is behind me, started in 1998 with the adoption of the Lower Boulder Creek and Cold Creek Master Plan. And in that master plan, we talked about doing a natural channel restoration out here on the site. So this site was mined for sand and gravel in the past, the last few decades back. But when they reclaimed this site, they didn't do a really great job of it. And so the soils that were put back on were very nutrient poor and had low organic matter, which are all necessary to kind of have a thriving plant community. And so what we had out here were a lot of non-native species, a lot of invasive species, very low productivity. So not only from an ecological perspective, but it wasn't very valuable even from for the agriculture and for pasture land. So we wanted to improve the site conditions, both from the riparian side of things and the creek, but also that it allowed us to kind of correct some of the wrongs that were done in the past with the mining site. So the project includes the realignment of about a mile long length of the creek. and opening up the floodplains with about 150-foot wide floodplain bench. In stream, we moved the stream over and made it more naturally meandering. And within the channel itself, we installed some riffles and pools, large woody debris, cobble bars that all provide in-stream habitat values. And then we've installed thousands of trees and shrubs as well as willow cuttings throughout the site. And then finally the whole site was seeded with a mix of native grasses, forbs, and shrubs. The plants that we have installed out here and the seeds that we've placed down will grow into more of a thriving riparian community. We'll have kind of a diversity of habitat types, some grassy areas, some shrubby areas, and some larger cottonwood trees and so forth that are going to provide for a number of different wildlife species. So the area is going to thrive and be a lot more diverse in terms of the plant species, the wildlife species that can use this site.
So the Next Step program is the Area Agency on Aging's kind of foray into healthcare reform. The program is designed to work with Medicare beneficiaries who are having comprehensive joint replacement surgeries within a federal program called bundled payments. And the way that bundled payments work is basically a hospital is incentivized to keep their spending at a certain limit, and they're accountable for the care of a patient over 90 days. And what we found with our partners at Boulder Community Health was that 50% of their patients weren't receiving any follow-up care because of capacity issues and workload. And so we found an opportunity to partner with them to offer community resource navigation services and service coordination for their patients who were being discharged to the home environment 90 days after their surgeries. The Next Step was created by a team of ours at the Area Agency on Aging, and we worked with Boulder Community Health for about a year to develop a model that would integrate with their workflows. And what we were looking for specifically was to reduce hospital readmissions, reduce post-acute care utilization, which is nursing home visits and rehab, and improve patient outcomes, so helping patients recover more successfully in their home environments. So the Area Agency on Aging has a resource navigator who is actually on site at the hospital, and they're visiting with patients after their surgical procedure and before they're discharged home to talk about their options and to get a sense of how well they've planned for their discharge from the hospital. We gauge sort of the sense of how the patient will fare as they leave the hospital. And then we work with them to provide additional supports that they might need to ensure a safer recovery. For example, transportation, home-delivered meals, in-home services, chores and homemaker services, caregiver supports, etc. We were studying the effects of the work over the course of the program in 2018. And what we found was that we were able to achieve over $1,500 savings per episode. The hospital has about 300 patients come through it every year, so that's a significant amount of potential savings that is then earned by our partner. We've also been able to drive down hospital readmissions by 40% and reduce post-acute care utilization by 14%. So we're helping people recover more safe and in their home environments, as well as helping our healthcare partners save money on, from unnecessary healthcare utilization.
I was fortunate enough to work on an unfortunate bridge replacement. 2013 we had our flood, and at that time this bridge was wiped out by the waters, completely wiped out. The previous bridge was 73 feet long, and we have here a 180-foot steel truss bridge, which is pretty neat because not only did we get the bridge locally sourced, but the Town of Lyons flagstone quarries were also used to get the flagstone for our monuments. And then we also incorporated into the monuments the fish and the fishermen on the other side of the bridge, kind of indicating what's going on in the surrounding area with the creek. We have fish. During construction, they actually did see some trout in the creek, and the beautiful landscape of the flagstone, just the bridge almost accentuates that beauty. We were able to reuse 900 cubic yards of topsoil, 5,000 cubic yards of rock. We were able to save quite a few trees, but at the same time we planted a lot of trees to help with the stream restoration and vegetation in the area. In addition, when we were working on this project, we were slightly overlapping with Parks and Open Spaces St. Vrain Creek project that was just downstream of this location, and we had to both of us had to work together as far as the interface of our projects when it came to the creek restoration itself.
In 2005, we started to produce a calendar for the public and staff, and we asked our staff members to take pictures of our properties, and the public loved it. They were so happy, and the sales started to blossom more and more. So this year we decided to look at our waste, and we were using these plastic CD cases, and they made fairly nice stands because they fold up and became a stand. But then we had to protect the plastic from breakage in transport and delivery, so we had to use all this bubble wrap, and then we put it in a bubble wrap envelope, and it just really started to bother us. So we started looking this summer at some alternatives. And finally, we found a solution when Jesse, one of our seasonals, did a volunteer project with a small company called Eco Enclose, and they are located in Louisville, so local and small. They came up with this design. The cost was 45 cents per stand, and the plastic was 62 cents per stand. So not only was it more cost effective, but everything became 100% recyclable. So I'm so thrilled that all of our calendars from now on will be recycled along with the rest of the Boulder County Recycling Center's cardboard and paper.
In 2016, Colorado voters passed a statewide initiative which allows unaffiliated voters to participate in any party primary. After the initiative passed, the Secretary of State's office created the framework to conduct the primary election. Now unaffiliated voters have two choices. One is they can update their registration and provide a ballot preference and receive just one ballot, or they can receive both party ballots, however they can only vote one.
From a communications and education standpoint, the change in the primary election model was really challenging. First, unaffiliated voters had never been sent ballots for a primary election before. So first we had to educate them that they could participate, and then we had to make sure that they knew they either could pre-pick a ballot if they knew their preference in advance, or they could wait to receive two ballots, but they had to make sure that they could only vote and return one. In addition to piggybacking off the state's communications efforts, we decided to run our own robust campaign to inform voters. We created a really fun pair of educational ads and pushed them out heavily and repeatedly on Facebook and Twitter, and we ended up getting really good community buzz about our efforts.
So a year ago, I was running for office, and I was also working for a statewide voter engagement organization. And it's through that work that I was really able to see what counties across the state were doing to educate their voters around the new primary model. What I saw was that Boulder County's efforts really stood out. They used the state's message, but they also built upon it in really creative ways, with cute dogs and cute kids and cupcakes, and the frequency of this message was really strong, and community members were hearing about it in a variety of ways. Looking ahead to 2020, we're really excited to continue building on the great work that was already done in 2018 to ensure that every single voter knows how to participate in this still new primary election model.
I'm proud to say that our outreach efforts resulted in one of the lowest error rates for unaffiliated voters where they accidentally voted and returned two ballots. So our message about only voting one ballot really seemed to resonate and come through for our voters.
The Roadway Overtopping project was an analysis performed by the Floodplain Management Group in Transportation. We took all the new floodplain data that was provided to us after the 2013 floods, and we decided to do additional analyses. The first analysis we did was looking at all the public stream crossings, so bridges and culverts in the county. We looked at the flood recurrence intervals that we could produce and looked at various amounts of overtopping that could occur. What that means is we looked at how much water would be on the road and when it would be on the road. The final products we produced was flood depth and velocity grids. These are GIS-based layers that predict the amount of water that will be in a specific area and how fast it'll be moving. The data produced in this project will help various county departments in their planning processes. Primarily in discussions with the Office of Emergency Management, they presented a desire to have information and data on when various roads and bridges would be inundated. This will help them for emergency planning, such as evacuation routes and other types of road closures when flooding occurs. The benefit of our analysis is that it includes all recurrence intervals from the mean annual flood to the 500-year flood. So smaller events that occur more frequently, we have data to provide the Office of Emergency Management. Another use of this data would be for the Transportation Department and other county departments in their capital improvement projects. It will help us identify areas of need for additional improvements or county bridge and culvert replacements. These products are already being used by various county departments. The Office of Emergency Management is running various flood exercises and is utilizing some of this data in their process. The County Floodplain Management Program has utilized some of this information in various permitting and planning decisions. And the Transportation Department has also started to look at future bridge and culvert repairs and replacements based on some of the data that we've provided.
I'm seeing more vaping devices come in, batteries. I don't really know a lot about it because I don't smoke or vape. What can we do to help each other? And that started this kind of vaping take back project where we ended up doing some outreach and education, going out to the vape shops and seeing what we could do to help them, and ultimately creating a brochure for consumers, one side talking about health and one side talking about hazardous materials.
Yeah, and we are seeing these devices become more popular, and also calls into the Poison Control Center about exposure to vaping devices among children. So we thought it was a great opportunity to talk about safe storage and handling and proper disposal.
So the e-liquid is what we're disposing of because this contains nicotine. And so nicotine is considered an acute hazardous waste, and we can only take up to 2.2 pounds of P-listed waste such as nicotine from businesses to dispose of properly. And then anything that contains a battery, so if there was a battery in here, maybe there is, we want to get the batteries recycled because we don't want to start any fires. So in order to spread the word about our program, we actually went to every vape shop in the county and handed out our brochure, kind of had a conversation about what we're trying to educate consumers on, so the whole public health side and then the disposal side, let folks know that Boulder County Hazardous Materials is accepting vaping devices and any liquid that they're not going to be using, and to recycle batteries properly.
We worked with our communication staff to create an infographic to place in retail shops so that consumers were educated where they were purchasing these devices. And then we also worked with our youth advisors at the Public Health Department to do an evaluation of how these informational rack cards were being distributed in the stores. Youth in Boulder County and in Colorado are using vape devices, and so there are vape devices that are also being collected at schools. And so the next phase of this project really is to talk about how we might support and help schools properly dispose of the product they're also collecting in the schools.
The University of Colorado reached out to us to start doing take-back events on campus because vaping is so prevalent with the youth. A lot of the students at the university are doing this, and so CU wanted to reach out and try to provide ongoing take-back events. And so we're in the process now of working with the CU staff and providing bins for students to drop off their materials, also providing information on the environmental impacts, so like why we shouldn't throw nicotine on the ground or why you shouldn't throw batteries in the trash. and kind of getting the word out through the university.
WIC is a program that serves women, infants and children, women who are breastfeeding, pregnant, or postpartum, their infants to age 1, and then kids up to age 5. It's a USDA program, and we provide specific nutritious foods for them to utilize with an eWIC benefit card at the grocery store. On that food package, families get, the eligible members get about $8 per month of fresh fruits and vegetables. That's for children, and then pregnant moms and breastfeeding moms get $11 per month of fruits and vegetables. So the reason that this WIC GAP program is so amazing is that our families, our WIC participant families, are able to get $20 in fresh local produce up to 2 times a week, every week during the growing season.
During the farmers market season, my family eats a lot healthier because we have access to the fresh fruits and vegetables and other products at the farmers market. I can see the difference in how my kids eat. My 2 boys, they're 5 and 2 years old, and they eat more vegetables because I think they just taste better. I can see the difference when I make like soups from the tomatoes I buy from the farmers market, and they just eat it, and compared to when I make it with the tomatoes from the supermarket.
I have a small family farm in Longmont, and I started the farm 12 years ago with the intention of just growing really nutrient-dense food for my family, and realized there was a need in the community, so I started going to the farmer's market and selling food at the farmer's market, and the farm's grown and grown ever since. And it's been awesome to be part of the WIC program and be able to know that this nutrient-dense food, what I call like kind of food is medicine, like what people could most benefit from this. Women and infant and children and nursing mothers, like it's just an awesome place to get this nutrient-dense food into, to make sure these kids get all the nutrients they need as they're growing up to be as strong and smart as possible. So I love working at the farmers market, working with the WIC program, and being able to support my community in that way.
The WIC GAP program has really been amazing in bringing a whole spectrum of the community to the markets, and we experience it as vendors, we experience it as staff, our board. Everybody's just been so happy to see a broader segment of the community represented, because that is the truest manifestation of the market.
Local organic food is so much more nutritious, and this just gives us it takes us a step forward to, achieving health equity in our community.
In my experience, it's really changed the face of the market. Our market is now so much more representative of our community. It's just been a win-win-win as far as I'm concerned, and I'm so thankful for the work that Boulder County Public Health has done.